Welcome to MamaFuel, the podcast that fuels every mama's heart, soul, mind, and body, and hopefully sparks a few dreams along the way. I'm Ann Ferguson, Chief Nurturer and Mama Mentor at the Centered Mama Project, and your host for this podcast. I'll be sharing real, raw, and often funny conversations with beautiful mamas from around the world to remind you that you're not alone and that you're doing amazingly on this wild journey of shepherding small humans as they make their way on our beautiful planet. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of MamaFuel. And I say welcome back because this is my first episode recording after a long summer break and summer away. And I have missed podcasting and missed every beautiful soul whose earbuds you give me space in. So thank you for welcoming me back. And today's guest is such a treat for all of us. And I have been itching to have this conversation since only very recently, because Sharlene Lopez, who is my guest today, has started a life experiment in this month. And our paths have crossed indirectly through different online connections. But what she has decided to do this month is fascinating to me and inspiring, and her courage and beauty and openness and inquiry is so motivating to me to be more open as well, that I really just wanted to share what she's doing and just have a really good conversation with her anyway. So Sharlene, thank you so much for being here with us today on MamaFuel. Welcome.
Wow, what an introduction. Thank you, Anne. It's really nice to be here. Thank you. Thank you for that very kind introduction.
Well, listen, we're just getting started. So let's start out as I do every podcast. And can you explain to us a little bit what your life looks like right now?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I am a mum of three boys, 3 young boys, 3 under 5, and they are completely rambunctious and full of spirit / potentially naughty, but we'll go for full of spirit. And I run my own business. I started my business up when I was pregnant with my first one. He was 4 months old and I was bored on maternity leave, which sounds ridiculous now, but that's what I did. And that's still going. Yeah, I think there's that kind of gap in identity, isn't there? You're not the working girl anymore, and you're the mum, but you've got so much time. You don't feel like it at the time necessarily, but you have all these big naps. You kind of think, well, now what fills that? Mm-hmm. So I think that's what happened there. And then, so we lived in just outside London, in Greater London, and for 10 years. And then I was pregnant with my second child. And we decided to move the country. So now I'm living in Dorset, but potentially looking to move back in. So that's me. That's life at the moment.
And so the 3 little guys under 5, that is, I had 2 under 2, and that was like, whoo. So bowing to you. We're going for number 3 because...
No, don't bow to me. I need medication and alcohol. That's what
ideally not at the same time.
Well, probably. I don't know. Maybe not yet. Give it a couple of years, then maybe. Don't think it's going to get better.
Nah, in a couple of years you'll be clear. It's totally different. It's totally different when they get older. So, you just said something actually that segues beautifully into what you've decided to do this month. So you mentioned that it was a question of identity when you first became a mama. That you had this little guy and he was 4 months old, and you were thinking, oh crap, now what? Because we have so much of our identity in Western cultures linked with our professional roles. So much has been put on us as women. We were the generation that was raised, told that we could do anything we wanted, and you could have the career and the family and the this and the that. And I think we can have everything we want, and I've discussed this before on the podcast. I don't think it's realistic to think we can have it all at the same time. So here you were, new mama, all of this time in air quotes. And thinking, who am I as a young mom? And now again, recently, you've had this inquiry again. Like, it's been pretty stormy with you guys, right? Like, you've had 3 kids under 5, which means 3 under 3 at one point, I imagine, right? Or 3 under 4. And so the hormones and the like, I don't know if you went through postnatal depression, but that was definitely something that hit me and a lot of the guests that I've had on the podcast. plus, just trying to have your life happening. And it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on.
And renovating a house and all these other things that you guys have been doing in your spare time. So here you are, it's summer this year, and you start thinking about identity. Why?
To be honest, identity has always been a theme that I've been quite interested in. I think you go through different stages in your life where who are you? And I think you do that in your teens when you're trying to figure out people go off into different groups. And when I was that age, it was the Nirvana and Pearl Jam lot, or we had at our school, we had the classical music lot, or you had the kind of just the really naughty, super rebellious ones, and you kind of had to figure out who you were. And then I think you have it again when you're kind of in your 20s, then you have it again when you have your children. And I'm having it again now. I don't know if it ever stops really. I think now I've done a lot of exploring my background, my heritage over the last year actually. Because it kind of came up in terms of my business, leading my business. What do I want my life to be? How does my business therefore look? And I realized I didn't really know. Again, whenever I do any soul searching, it always comes back to the same thing of who am I? And I don't know why can't it just be a transient, fluid thing? Why do we have to? When I go shopping, I'm like, who am I? Who am I? Am I going to go like señorita, or am I going to be like super kind of funky, or am I going to be dressed like the Victoria Beckham, like tailored? Like, who am I? I'm in the changing room going like, who am I? Who am I? And it's the most horrific experience ever. It just doesn't hit it. So,
but I love that what a beautiful red thread, and also what a level of courage that you have, because Sharlene, it's easier to just put your head in the proverbial sand and just keep getting on and don't be bothered to think and just do the thing.
Yeah.
Like don't la 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 la,
Yeah.
Like the three kind of monkeys. But you're constantly having this. I mean, your business is an identity branding business. So you're doing this for brands and companies and clients. But you're also thinking about this for yourself, and I think it is by nature of life. I agree that it is a really fluid thing, because the Anne at 44 you see sat across from you through the interwebs is not the same Anne that you would have seen at 22 or 11 or 1, clearly as we grow up. But then, even as an adult, or not the same Anne you would have seen 6 months ago before this podcast even existed. But yours is about your heritage and your culture. And you wrote a really beautiful post a while ago at the beginning of what you're calling your experiment for September, which delved into all of the different nations and cultures and languages that your beautiful being was literally physically born out of. And if memory serves, there's Scotland and Ireland and Iraq and the UK, and your husband's from Argentina. I mean, you're obviously not born of your husband, but in the mix of all of the things that are the influences that may be coming into your life, you're in the middle of all this, plus your 3 boys, plus, maybe moving, blah, 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 all this stuff. Yeah. And you're still going, hang on a second. Who am I? So talk to me a little bit about that. Can you maybe revise or review what you had written in that post? Because it really just went straight into my heart, and I thought, oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah, so you're right. That's the influences that I've had, Scottish, Irish. Well, it's a funny story. I thought I was half Scottish and half Iraqi. And then I spent £60 on pure wool kilts for 3 of my boys, and found out the next day that actually my family who lived in Scotland identified as Irish because their mum was from Southern Ireland, had come to live in Ireland, and they had like shamrock tattoos on them and stuff, but it was super Glaswegian accent. So my Irish, Iraqi, Argentine boys wear kilts now because
That's awesome.
they're pure wool. So that's just what they're wearing, But and then I think I always felt I was raised with a very traditional English family who adopted me, and I've always I look very different for them because I'm half Iraqi. And I met my husband. I went to Spain to be Spanish, actually. That's why I went. I was fed up of looking different. I thought I'd just go and be Spanish, and not remembering that actually I'm fluent in Spanish now because I learned it, but I still have an accent, which I kind of forgot that would happen. And then I managed to twist the accent from being a Spanish accent to an Argentine accent because I met my husband and wanted to be Argentinian with him. So in Spain, they think I'm Argentinian because they hear an accent, but they just think it's an Argentine one now. Yeah. So, and then I was born into a Muslim Catholic family, and I was adopted by my mum's an ex-Jehovah's Witness, and her family are witnesses. And my dad's an atheist, and his family, I don't really know what they are. And my brothers the other day refer to us as being Christian, which I don't know how he thinks he's Christian, being raised in an atheist and an ex-witness. And they weren't christened, and I wasn't christened. And then I went to a Catholic school from 11 to 18. And then I was christened myself. My son was baptized into the Roman Catholic faith, and I was baptized into the Christian faith only because they wouldn't let my brothers be the godparents because they weren't christened. So I had to get myself christened so that he could have a godmum. My husband could be the godfather because he'd been baptized in the Roman Catholic faith. I mean, it's just, so my beliefs are really, I've seen all these different ideas and all these different opinions and views, and I just think I'm blended. This is my new word I come up with this morning. I was making my cup of tea because I was thinking, how can you be half, because in my head I'm half Iraqi, half Irish, half Scottish and half British. But obviously that makes up two people. Yeah. So I was like, well, that doesn't work out mathematically. And then I was thinking, but it's not about math. It's not about whether my arm is half this and half that. It's in my soul. I'm a blend of all of this, of all of these religions and cultures. Well, not cultures because I'm born and bred in Britain. So I have an English culture, but I have a different view of it because of course you would in that environment have a different view of it.
Yeah, and also you didn't have an early childhood where you were born into a stable, loving family that then remained your stable, loving family throughout your whole time, which as you're growing older can be somewhat turbulent because hormones and teenage years and all that stuff. But so you came into your adoptive family when you were quite young, and then have evolved with that family, knowing that your roots were somewhat different. And so not so long ago, you met your birth father, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And he's the Iraqi parent.
He's Iraqi. Yeah.
And so begins this journey of exploration or continues maybe this journey of exploration of your background and maybe the heritages from which you have sprung.
Yeah.
And so you get to this summer and you decide to do what?
So I just thought, I would try on a different identity. I would try on an Iraqi immigrant Muslim identity. And I know that you can be a British Muslim and I know you can be a British Iraqi, but that was the identity that I chose to have. And the reason I chose to have it was because I have a real connection and I can see racism sometimes when other people can't see that it's there. And I've always been like that I remember writing an essay when I was 15. I was reading Passage to India when I was 15 and I couldn't see the racism. So in my head, I just had to, inverted the black and the white people and viewed it if I had been spoken to like that. And then I could just see the racism and I hadn't been able to see it before. And so I just think and I remember when my husband tried to get a British visa, when he did get a British visa over here, and we were together, he was standing in the queue. And the way we were treated at the British Embassy, the way everybody was treated was unbelievable. And I remember thinking, they just dehumanized a lot of us. They don't see people there. They don't see that that's Mohammed, who's got twin girls and he's had to leave his family because there's no employment where he is and he's come here. And actually he was a teacher, but now he's cleaning the floor of McDonald's and sending the money back and hopes to bring his family over. I don't know that was true, but everybody has a story and is a person, but we just kind of managed to dehumanize them. Just, we were herded. And I think I flipped over that line really easily because if you hear me speak and you see the way I dress and the way I behave, I am English. When I'm in London, it was never questioned. And I've been in London for 10 years. And I guess I forgot that I would be received the way I've been received now living in a village. And it seems silly to me that I ever forgot that I do have a foreign look and heritage. So that's been kind of odd. But I think if I'm just English with my English mates, I don't get, or if on my own, I don't get racism that I see. But if I'm talking in Spanish with my husband, we're treated a completely different way. So I flip across that line, like a million times a day.
That's so interesting to me as a white woman who went to live in the UK alone, not feeling racism, being Canadian, thinking, Canada, Anglophone Canada has its roots in colonialist Anglophone Canada, has its roots in the UK. Like everything, the banking system, the governmental system, everything was based on the British system. So I was thinking, great, I can just go to the UK and things will make sense. And I loved London and I was really drawn there. And I arrived and was really surprised by the sense, perhaps I had been naive in expecting it not to exist, but really surprised by the sense of otherness that I felt. Because although I clearly speak English as one of my native languages and understood the system and was working, etc., the phrase separated by a common language was really strong. I was working in a communications agency and I couldn't connect with people in a communications agency, despite being a lifelong avid lover of communications and of communicating. And that sense of otherness that I didn't quite belong. And I didn't quite belong. I belonged in Canada as well, but Canada wasn't, in many ways, I feel very Canadian in that I love the outdoors and the frankness of Canadians is such a relief to me whenever I go home. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, and the friendliness and the ease of approachability and all of those things.
Yeah. But
I also feel really European. For me, being here, my mom is French and having spent some time here at school and high school, Europe really speaks to me in so many other ways. And yet I got to the UK and was made to feel in very subtle ways that I didn't belong here, that I was probably just going to be here for a while. One British woman, never forget this, we were at the tea point in the office, and I was saying, I was really surprised because, such and such came around and asked my desk mate who sat, 2 arms lengths away from me, facing me at a desk. So like my desk faced his desk and our feet would touch if we weren't careful. And invited him, the new guy, to the pub. And I'd been there for 6 months and he just sort of ignored me and walked away. And I remember saying to her, gosh, that was tough. That the office is going to the pub and I'm pointedly being excluded from the invitation. And she said, well, you're just going to leave anyway. So why would we bother? And I said, sorry. And she said, oh, London's like that. People just come here and then after 2 or 3 years they leave. So why would we bother making friends? And I thought, whoa. And it was, and I would have this conversation with other colleagues, and their response was, "Well, yeah, we've had people come in and out of the office, and you get close to people, and then they just bugger off." So there was really, and clearly that wasn't my experience with every.
No, yeah.
And if I didn't have 2 young girls, and if it weren't for Brexit, I would move back to the UK in a heartbeat. I love it there, despite the initial, situation. So it's not a UK bashing at all, but it's that sense of otherness that was really painful to me and I wasn't expecting. And so maybe that's why what you're doing has been so poignant to me, because taking on this Iraqi immigrant Muslim identity. Yeah. So you've decided to wear a hijab where you didn't 6 weeks ago. You didn't even know how to put one on.
No. Yeah.
You did this great Facebook Live on, okay, this is how I tie on. Yeah. Like I've had this band. So like if anyone's watching, you can always go to the YouTube channel for the Sundered Mama Project. And Sharlene's got this beautiful fuchsia hairband underneath. And then this stunning like dove gray, beautiful scarf, which, as I said before we started, really suits you. Those 2 bits.
Thank you.
And so these 2 bits that you need to, bits is enough. These 2 pieces of cloth.
But they're just bits of cloth. Yeah.
Yeah. That you have learned how to wind around your beautiful face, and the way that you have wound them today looks like you've been doing it for your whole life. And you also you've you've gone beyond the head covering, because initially it was just the head covering, and now you're wearing, is it called an abaya? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yay! Okay.
Yeah.
So you're wearing the abaya, which is the covering that goes right down to the ground. And
that's right. Yeah.
What's been really fascinating to me is how you've been chronicling on your Facebook profile, for anybody who knows you, which is pretty ballsy.
Well, public, actually. It's on public setting.
Is it on public?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll link to that in the show notes. And also, I'm rejigging my podcast publication so that this goes out 2 days after or 3 days after recording.
Okay.
Not next Monday. So we're recording on Friday. Yeah. So that people can follow you during this experiment. But you have been explaining how you have learned how you even figured out how to wear the hijab. So tell us about that. So you decide one day that you're gonna try this Muslim Iraqi immigrant identity on.
Yeah.
And so there isn't a shop called, Muslim Iraqi enter here. Like, how does one just suddenly do that?
I know. Yeah. It's a bit mad, isn't it? It does sound really mad now you say it.
But it's fascinating.
I have done it before. I did a blind, I tried on a blind identity. So the night before I went to sleep, I put plasters over my eyes, like normal plasters. So I'd wake up in the morning and would not be able to see. But actually the plasters really damaged my eyelids. So when I woke up in the morning, I had like burnt eyelids. So I actually couldn't open my eyes anyway.
Effective.
So, I spent the day doing that and my husband led me around, but he was awful because he kept forgetting to tell me when there were steps and curbs and doors, and it was just it was a painful day. We argued the whole day. Aww. Anyway, so this time I chose that identity. I am half Iraqi, but that's not the reason I chose to do this identity. I chose this identity because I'm against racism, and because I think that it seems to be there's different degrees of where you can be from. So you can be Spanish, and that's fine, that's acceptable, and we will let you be here. French, that's okay. You're non-threatening, you can be here, but don't get up yourself, and or wherever. But then if you start saying, well, I'm from China, okay, hardworking. India, okay, good, hardworking, that's fine. And then you start like Sudan or Somalia or Afghanistan, and you're kind of getting into the see it, say it, sort it kind of territory, And I thought, well, I want to go.
What does that mean for non-British speakers?
Okay. So see it, say it, sort it is a campaign that the British public police are doing. So if you see a bag on its own or anybody acting suspiciously, you should see it. Or if you see it, you should say it, and they will sort it. And basically, it's anybody who looks like me who's got a backpack would then be see it, say it, sort it. And I'm really against it because I just think it's turned 1984, George Orwell's The Thought Police and prevention of crime to another level. So, but anyway, that's the see it, say it, sort it. So, so I just thought, well, I want to go for the extreme because this needs to, these are the people that are suffering the most. And it's not just Iraq, it's, all of that kind of Middle Eastern area. But it was obvious for me to go for an Iraqi identity rather than going for an Afghan identity because I am half Iraqi. Why would you not? So that's why. And Muslims are seeing it being terrorists. I was like, well, you've got it because you can be Iraqi without being Muslim, but the majority are. But there are Christian Iraqis, and I thought I'd be an immigrant as well because I think that's a kind of touches on where the refugee kind of crisis or asylum seekers, or they may call them immigrants. It's just ridiculous. You're not an immigrant if you're going to die if you stay in your own country. You're a refugee. But anyway, I digress. So that's why I tried it. So I just thought, okay,
it's an important differentiation.
Yeah, well, you can tell the stance of the news report if it starts with, immigrants from Iraq are found on a boat. They're not, are they? It's ridiculous. So. And if we hadn't meddled in their country, they wouldn't be coming here anyway. So, it's ridiculous. But I won't get too political. And actually, it's not about political views. It transcends that. Whether you agree or whether you don't in what happens in Iraq, all I'm trying to say is they are people. We are all people. And people know me, and I've got a hijab on, and I've got an abaya on. And I'm hoping that through doing that it personalizes. People see that it's me and it humanizes other people that wear it. And it allows them, it stops them being able to dehumanize others. So if they see another person wearing hijab, then they might kind of receive them differently, because I might have made a difference in their psyche was just a person with a scarf on their head, because that's all it is.
Yeah.
So that's the idea. So anyway, so I thought, okay, so how do I do this? And I was in London with my son, and I went to Edgware Road because I wanted to teach him about being Iraqi, and we live in Dorset. So when we were in London, I thought, okay, I'll take him to Edgware Road. And it wasn't Iraq necessarily, but there's a lot of Arabs there. And I was hoping that there'd be a store that I would be able to find. I could go in and speak discreetly to a female staff member, and they'd be able to help me, but there actually wasn't any. So I was in Staples because my son wanted a pencil case, and there was a woman there who was wearing everything, the abaya and the hijab and everything. And I didn't know the names of any of it then. So I just said, like, where'd you get that? What you're wearing? I want to get that. So she said, go to Whitechapel, so the other side of London. So that's ridiculous. I haven't got time to do that. I had to take my son to Lego school. She said they were cheaper there. And anyway, so I thought, okay, we'll finish off, we'll go to a mosque, and then I'll take him to Lego school. And it was at the mosque, the Islamic Cultural Centre, which I just looked up on Google. Mosque. I was just on Google Maps and just looked up mosque.
I love the long, drawn out research that you're doing here. As I'm just going to casually adopt this other identity, which is completely different from what I've grown up with and anyone's ever seen me in, and is socially, politically charged. And I'm just going to Google. Place where, change identity, center, Anyway, okay, so you Google it and you find that there's an Islamic center not far from where you are.
Yeah, do you know what, Anne? That's a really good idea. I wonder whether you could have like a business or a place where that would allow you just to assume different identities. I mean, you could just try it on for a day.
It would
like
be
Mr.
really
Ben.
powerful.
Do you remember Mr. Ben? Were you I don't know if Mr. Ben went to Canada, did he?
No.
Mr. Ben was awesome. I loved Mr. Ben. Mr. Ben was basically a bloke. He used to go into a changing room in a shop, and he would come out a completely different identity and then have an adventure as that identity.
Oh, so fun.
Yeah, awesome. So his was more really, actually, no, it wasn't. Sometimes he'd be like a gamekeeper, or he'd be a policeman, or he'd be whatever. And he'd go and he'd come out the changing room, and he would be in Africa with the elephants being a gamekeeper,
Amazing. You're the female
awesome.
Mr. Ben.
I am Mrs. Ben. Yeah.
Okay, so you go to the Islamic Cultural Center, and what happens?
Yeah, so I went there, and I happened to see a shop inside. First of all, they said you've got to cover your head. So I didn't know how to cover my head. And they had some spare scarves. And there was a 6-foot guy, like super beefy guy, put on the scarf on himself so he could show me how to do it. So I was like, okay, fine. Yeah. So I wrapped it all around me and went and had a look. And and saw all the clothes. So I went in and I was holding one up, and I was thinking, wow, that's unusual. That fits me. It was a baya, which is a long black down to your sleeves and down to the floor. It's just like it's a bit like a painting over, like proper painters, like artist painters, not like dungarees overalls. And this guy came up and said, are you looking for your son? Yes, I am looking for my son. Because the ladies are over there. Okay, no, I am looking for my son. Yes, I am looking for my son. He's 5 and I'm holding it up to me. So that was awkward. So I went over to the ladies one, and there was the lady shop was just opposite the corridor. And there was 2 ladies there. One had, so that she had the hijab on, which covers her whole hair. You can see all of her face, all black, and a black abaya on. And the other lady had on not the burqa quite, but it was close to being a burqa, which is when you cover all of your face. And she had her in between her eyes covered, but she could see her eyes. Mm-hmm. And I kind of said, do you mind me asking, what have you got on? How many layers have you got on? Because it's all black. So it's really hard to see with all the layers across how many items they've got on and how they fit together. So I just asked them what they had on and how you wear them. And then I was asking them, why did you wear it? And how do you feel wearing it? And, just all the questions I've been wondering, really. And I've got to say, this is really bad on my part, but I've got to say, when she responded to me, I hadn't expected her voice to sound like mine. And I didn't really think about that until she spoke. And I was like, oh, I thought she'd be softly spoken. And I didn't think she'd sound so familiar. She just sounded like me,
Which is a beautiful start to your experiment of, well, here's a mirror. Here you go.
Yeah.
You want to know how other people might react. You know, what is the experience of an Iraqi immigrant? And here you are with your own set of expectations and prejudices, which we all have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Facing a Muslim woman and expecting her to come out with a soft voice and probably an accent.
Or an accent, yeah, I did.
And right in the gut, she didn't. She didn't. And she spoke like I would have spoken. Just like really, I'd expected matter of fact, I would have maybe expected her to have been a bit more reserved in her way of speaking, or modest even in her way of speaking, but she wasn't. She was saying things like, I can be naked under here if I want to. And I was like, oh, you just said naked.
Yeah, you've got a hijab in the Bible, you can't use the word naked, you can't have the concept of naked, you know. And it's for the first good few days, maybe a week, it definitely brought out in me prejudices that I didn't know I had. Like I was borrowing my husband's car, he's got a big work van, and we swapped cars on a Saturday because he has the kids and I might go to a coffee shop and work. And I was thinking, oh, I wonder whether I would be allowed to drive a van. And then I was thinking, oh my God, like this is what I'm thinking about Muslim women, you know? So it brought out a lot to myself when I started thinking, how should I behave? Because I had a responsibility I'm not trying to be the perfect or the role model for being a Muslim, because I don't know how to do that. I know the basics like everybody else probably does about smoking, drinking, eating ham, pork, bacon, whatever. Which has been really hard when it comes to coffee, because nearly all of their breakfast things put bacon or sausage in them. It's been really hard. But yeah, so I didn't want to be a disservice to them, but I'm not trying to be the model one. So yeah, so I was conscious of not bringing down a reputation or a name or, bringing disgrace on them, because I do think very much I feel representative, whereas and I think a lot of people who are in minority ethnics do feel representative of their whole culture. And I've never felt I've had to represent more than me. Because if I do something naughty, no one can say anything, oh, everybody in London is naughty, or everybody in Dorset is naughty, or all the English are naughty. It's just, oh, Charlene's naughty. But wearing hijab, it's blaming immigrants or blaming Muslims, or, so yeah, there's definitely there's a whole weight on your shoulders.
And you have had a few flashpoints as you have gone through this experiment. So it's day 14 now. So you're 2 weeks in, you're halfway through basically.
Yeah.
And initially your way of presenting the experiment was, I'm just going to give it a go. I'm just going to see how it goes. I don't know what it's going to be like. I don't know. Here's how I put on my hijab, and hang on, I'm just going to, there's some pins and just a second. And why don't you try it? And and I totally I'm going to do that. I'm going to try putting one on. I actually thought, I was like, oh, I have a headband. It's going to work and it's pink. And I'm going to
you don't have to wear a headband. If you don't want to wear a headband, you don't have to. I just do because my hair's like mad and curly. But
mine is really slippery. Like it's really smooth and slippery. And so I thought it'll just never, anytime I've ever worn a scarf around my head just because it was cold or kind of rainy or whatever, it just slips off. So for very, pedestrian reasons, I was like, oh, And so the feeling that I got from you was one of, it was light in the sense that you're just going to give it a go and see how it is. And this is how the whole thing works. And really what I thought was beautiful was that you were mystifying this piece of cloth, which is a piece of cloth. Like that's all it is a piece of cloth. And then as time went on, it was, well, what does it represent? And how are people treated? How are women treated when they wear this? How are men treated when they wear traditional Muslim clothing? Depending obviously on the country they're from, there is no such thing as traditional Muslim clothing, but from they come from, obviously the Saudis don't dress like the Indonesians don't dress like, and even that varies from region to region. But coming into these deeper questions of, like the day that you went to drop your kids off at the village, at the parish school. So you were nervous, right? You were like,
I was really nervous.
I'm going in to meet these people who had met you before?
So it was his second year at school. But I'm not sure how many people would have known that was still me. In my kids' class, but not in the others, potentially.
And then one of the things that you had questioned was, how would you even be treated by the staff, like the religious staff at the, the priest or the clergy, whatever I'm sorry, the terminology, I can't remember.
No, that's fine. I can't either.
Excellent. Blind leading the blind. Sort of which. And so what was that experience like? So you're nervous and
I was really nervous.
Your son to school, and what happened?
So I was really nervous because either people would know about the experiment and they'd think, she's a complete, that's the one, she's a complete unhinged nutter. So that was one thing I was worried about. Number two was that they would all think I'd been like radicalized over the summer and be a bit scared of me. Or the third thing was they would just think, oh my God, there's somebody different over there and I wouldn't really want to associate with them. And I was worried that could potentially reflect on my son. And also we need to get our third son christened. And I was worried that it's the same reverend, I'm thinking of the word myself then, the same reverend who is reverend for the school, who is for the church where we'd ask to be christened. And he might well see me and say, what's going on? And I don't know whether they might think that it's an insult to, there could be Muslims that think what I'm doing is an insult to Allah. They could be, I don't know. There could be Christians that think that I'm insulting God because I was christened a couple of years ago. I don't know. So I just don't know. I've got a funny bit of my hair's coming out there, isn't there?
Yeah, I was looking at that.
Yeah. It's because I've got a pin in there. See, you might think I do this like an expert, but I'm sure other people, if they wear hijabs, they'll all go, oh my God, look, she's just started out, bless her. Anyway,
I'm sure everybody who wears a hijab is the same. And if you start when you hit puberty, then you've seen your mother and your sisters and your aunties and your granny and everybody putting on hijab since you were born. So I think you're doing great.
Yeah, it is. It looks much more difficult than it is. So anyway, so I was worried about that, but actually, that's nothing against the village that I live in at all. Actually, I don't think I would have felt like it in London, just because it's harder, I think, to be othered. Even though I know your experience, and in a workplace, I think it's different. But if you're just walking along on the street, and in a workplace, I think it's different because I think we employ our own, and I think everybody employs their own. Actually, that's why I think in terms of culture. But like when you're walking on the street and you're walking through London, everybody's different. It's very hard to be othered because everybody's different from everybody else. So I don't think I would have felt like that. I still would have felt about people think about the experiment or think I'd be radicalized over the summer or something. I don't know. So it's nothing to do with where I live at all. Although before I had a hijab on, I was one of the most foreign people in the village. My husband definitely is. And that's had, we have come up against racism, but we have everywhere. So that's what I was worried about. And that's where my husband started thinking, well, this isn't just about you anymore. This is affecting the family. And we had a heated discussion at 6:00 in the morning, yesterday morning, as I was leaving to get the train for London for a really important meeting I thought I had, and proceeded to put everything on. And he's saying this, if because I read a lot of statistics that this could prejudice your chances of winning this client, and we need this business as a family. Like, look at your children, be more responsible. And I think that everything that I'm feeling, whilst I don't want to take it off, because it is part of how I dress now. It's part of who I am now. I really like wearing it. I really like wearing it. Apart from the reactions that I get from people that are negative sometimes, I really enjoy wearing it, because you should have seen what I'm going to post. I haven't posted yet. My before and after photo of my hair this morning. I just didn't do my hair. Mm-hmm. I just shoved it on, put this on, took me 2 minutes. Awesome. Love it. Love it, really do. And the belly I've got on, only because I've got this great big belly which keeps coming and going. And I can't fit my jeans properly. And it's really comfy.
Yeah.
And I'm naked underneath it. It's awesome. I love it.
So interesting that something, and this is something else that you have brought up, that something that in the Western world is often weighted down with the presumption of limitation, and the presumption of hindrance, and the presumption of another word, and it's gone now.
Oppression?
Yes, of oppression is actually, for you, liberating. It's liberating to not have to do your hair, and it's liberating to wear whatever the heck you want to wear underneath it, because nobody can see it anyway, so who cares?
Do you know? And that's what the two women I asked at the Islamic Cultural Centre, that's what they said to me when I asked them. And I thought to myself, it sounds like you're just trying to give me the positives. That's what I thought when they said that to me. They said, it's free, I can bend over, I don't have to worry about who I'm standing in front of. I could just, eat what I want. I don't have to undo a button on my jeans, and it's just really easy. And I was thinking to myself, it sounds like you're just trying to big it up, but there's got to be negatives to it. Like, it's got to be really hot and sweltering. You can't do stuff properly. And
I often think that, God, how hot are they when it's like 30 Celsius? And, ugh.
But do you know what? It's not. I don't know whether it's a lot of the majority of them, haven't they? The majority of Arabs we have got. See, I change very much with who the we and who the they are. It's really hard to follow me sometimes in sentences because that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
But that's my thing, isn't it? We are all a we. Anyway, having really thick black dark hair in the summer, having a light grey scarf, really thin cotton scarf over the top was actually a lot cooler for me than my big thick black hair. The only bit I find that personally makes me quite hot is under the neck, but I think I'm still going to carry on wearing a scarf. I don't think I'm wearing it in this way. I wear, like, if you've seen the African tribal women, the way they wear a big silk and they do all neatly, and it's
love it.
I love the elegance of it. And actually, we've got a fig tree at the back of our garden. I was looking up trying to see if there's any figs, and it fell off the back of me, and I went, oh, and I felt like when you're all coiffed and you go to Ascot races maybe and you have your hat on, and then the wind blows your hat off and you kind of feel ungainly, and I'm like, do you know what I mean? Like, get it on, and then you put it on and you feel like, and that's exactly how I felt. That's exactly how I felt. I was really surprised. I did feel naked. It does feel like my husband, because he phoned me when I was at home, he said, why are you still wearing that at home? You don't have to wear it at home. I was like, well, I don't have to wear a bra now I'm at home. I haven't got home and taken my bra off. We'll just keep it on. I might take over the end of the day when I put the kids to bed and I'm just lounging on the sofa. And that's the same time as I probably take my hijab off, actually. Like, what's the big deal?
And it's evolved for you from something that was a curiosity initially to now actually you really love wearing it.
Yeah.
Because it's cooler and it's light and it's freeing. You have had a couple of other situations come up because you are, working for yourself. And if you don't work, it doesn't work, as we say.
Yeah.
I know that very well. And so you had a Skype call earlier in the week or last week with a potential client.
Yeah.
And we're really nervous about wearing the hijab, and we're discussing on your Facebook Live, like, do I take it off? Do I keep it on? Like, is this what Muslim women are thinking? Because statistics show that Muslim women who wear the hijab are less often employed than women who don't. And, you might win the business. You're far more likely to not win the business if you're wearing the hijab than if you don't. Yeah. So, and you made the choice to keep on the hijab, and the response was really, I thought it was really quite funny, the response of your potential client. What did he say to you when you came on?
Oh my God. So I had a black one on, okay? And I think that's the problem, is I think I might have had a black top and had a black one on. But the guy said, oh, nice hoodie.
Which for any non-Brit is nice, like sweatshirt from like, you're wearing a sweatshirt hood on.
Yeah.
And then, I shifted to thinking, oh crap, it's not, oh crap, he might not want to talk to me because I'm wearing a hijab. It was, what did you say?
Was, oh my God, he's going to think I've just rocked up to this meeting in joggers and a sweater, now he's just going to think I'm unprofessional.
And then what you were writing afterwards was, is this how Muslim women live their lives? Like, are they thinking, are they constantly trying to figure out what are other people thinking about the fact that I'm wearing a hijab? Are they thinking about it at all? Or does it affect things? Should I even bother trying for this? Because I think it's prompted a whole series of questionings that I have found from an anthropological perspective. We were talking before we started recording. I found it really fascinating. And I don't mean that in a voyeuristic way. Being a blonde Caucasian woman living in places where people look like me my whole life, for the most part. They're just questions that have, from my place of absolute privilege, that have never occurred to me. And it won't occur to me unless I get so far out of a context that resembles that in which I was born. And
unless you did this.
Exactly.
So those questions wouldn't have occurred to me either. I had no idea of the thoughts that I'm having that I would have had. And then after I had them, it then took me a while to kind of say, this isn't experiment related. This is what it is like. And it's a tiny window into what it's like, isn't it?
For sure.
Because, they're doing this for a long time. But one of the women in the Islamic Center she was Turkish, and she dressed quite similar to how I am now. So she had a very light coloured scarf, and she had the band on. And the reason to have the band on, if you're going to tie it loosely, if you have a band on and then like it's zipping back, it means you keep your hair covered. Otherwise, you would have to have you wouldn't have to, but if you chose to cover your hair completely, you'd have to have your scarf quite tightly wound or
around your face.
Yeah. So she didn't. And she said that actually, because in Turkey, they say that they're only Turkish so they can have Ramadan. A bit like we're only Christians, so we have Christmas here, really. Suddenly we're all religious when it's Christmas. And she said that's how Turkey's known for being like that. So over here, her family don't like her wearing her scarf. She chose to wear it. She was young, early 20s. She chose to wear it. And she likes wearing it because she said that she gets respect from it, that she doesn't have boys like thinking they can just, hey, mate, all right, and all cuddle her and everything. She feels that she has that respect, physical, respect for her own body. But yeah, so I remembered her again thinking, you could have this within your own family. You really could. You really could.
Yeah. I mean, have you had conversations with Muslim women who wear the hijab on a daily basis and asked them?
About whether they have the feelings that I'm having?
Yeah.
No, I haven't. And do you know what, Anne? I don't know one single woman who wears a hijab. And what does that say about me, having living in London? Have I otherized? Because I've got friends from all over. I mean, literally, and I live in London, me and Nick said, actually, do you know what? We had somebody from every single continent in the world. And we had maybe 20 mates there, and there wasn't one person who was in the same country. But we had nobody who wore a hijab. I know people who are Muslim, not many, but I don't know many who wear the hijab. So I don't know. And I would like to ask them, I think at the moment I'm a little bit hesitant about, so then I had a client meeting yesterday with a girl who wears a hijab. And she was really surprised and proud because she's seen me before without it. From her expression, it looked to see me wearing it. At the end of the meeting, I didn't want to make a reference to it. At the end of the meeting, she made a point of saying that I look beautiful in it. And I think she was trying to make a point of recognizing that I had it on. And when I see her next time, I'm worried about, as much as I'm worried about what people who don't wear a hijab think about me now, I'm worried about when I take it off, what people who wear a hijab think when I take it off and realize that it was just an experiment. So, yeah, I don't know. But I definitely saw her differently. I just saw her as a girl. And I
wearing a hijab.
Yeah, exactly. I did. I saw her as a woman wearing a hijab. I thought in my head, I was thinking, I don't quite know if I can connect with you on the same way as I would other people. Is it a bit different? Is your culture a bit different? Or is but it just isn't, is it? It's
people.
Yeah, exactly. People are people. And I haven't done this as a thing to teach everybody else. I'm superior in this and I'm enlightened and I can teach you all how not to be racist. That's not it at all. It was just walk a mile in somebody else's shoes so I can understand how they feel. And through that process, humanize other people who, by people seeing me do it, humanize other people who wear it. So I'm learning in this process as well.
That's one of the places that I think you're being very generous, is that as you're having these situations arise like this, it was a big client meeting you had yesterday morning. And the reason you had a heated conversation, I suspect, with your husband yesterday was you guys have bills to pay and you have 3 kids. And it's hard to, when you have your own business and you're working to keep your family fed and sheltered, like it's real. Like it's not something to play with. And at the same time, what you're doing is also real. And you're not playing. This isn't play. So this is an experiment born of true curiosity about your heritage and one of the cultures that it makes up 50, from which 50% of your cells have come from, And so coming into this client meeting yesterday, again, the question arose of, do I wear it or do I not? And if I don't, what does that say about me? And am I letting down the team in a way of women who are wearing hijabs? Is this a thought process that they have too? Do they sometimes take off their veils to, we think that they're being oppressed by wearing the veil, but are we not more oppressed? And this is a really interesting question you asked. I think it was yesterday. Are we not the oppressors in creating situations that make it so that they feel that they will be so disadvantaged because they wear the veil that they then take off one of the things that feels a part of who they are?
Yeah. I know, it's really turned it on its head, hasn't it? Yeah. Well, since writing that, I have seen in anecdotal research I've done that there are instances where women have taken off a hijab and bingo, they've got the job in the next job interview they've gone to. And whilst I think Luke, my husband's argument to me is, but this isn't you, this is an experiment. But part of my value that doesn't want me to take it off is I want to keep my word. I said that I would keep this on. So that value is important to me. So whether it be for my faith or whether it be for a value of I want to keep my word, or whether it be for now it's also become a part of I'm free to do what I want. I'm free to keep it on and keep it off. That's a freedom thing now. They're all still really strong things about why you might want to wear it and why not. And yet, who is anybody else to tell me what to do? What gives you the entitlement to even think you can say to me whether I can wear it or not? And there's loads of people who wear other head coverings. You don't see a problem about Africans wearing it or Jews wearing it or, nuns wear it. We do all think that nuns have got a bomb strapped around their waist underneath their... it sounds rude and sacrilegious and impertinent for me to even suggest it. But,
Well, I don't know. Does it? I don't know.
Well, exactly. Look at all the Catholics. They're shagging all the kids.
Oh,
but anyway, I know I'm saying that really glibly, but it's nothing more than media. And you would never say that the IRA are representative of Ireland, the terrorist, the terrorist cell in Ireland. Nobody walks around Ireland thinking that every Irish person's going to bomb them up because they had the decency potentially to phone before they said they were going to bomb you. But come on. There's more Muslims than there are in the world Christians. We'd be dead. If they all wanted to kill us, we'd all be dead by now. Get over it.
So you decided yesterday to keep the hijab on?
I decided to keep it on.
You went to the meeting. Did it go well?
Oh, well, it's just it's such a letdown, isn't it? I'd actually turned up on the wrong day, but... So do you know what? I've got to do the whole thing. I'm going to have the argument with my husband again, because I've got to go next Wednesday, and have the whole trauma again if I'm going to wear it. But I did have other meetings that day, and they all went well. One guy, I completely forgot, when you dye your hair, say, I don't know whether you ever have, but I've dyed my hair red once, and you forget that your hair's red because you can't see yourself. You forget what you look like, don't you? And then people might go, oh, wow, your hair. I'm like, oh, yeah, God, yeah, I coloured it. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah. So I went to see this guy, and we kind of networked together. And I've seen, over the years, I've seen him quite a lot. And he went to shake my hand, and I was like, what? Why are you shaking my hand? And went to kiss him. And we had a conversation about it after I told him. He's like, why are you wearing it? And I did tell him. He's one of the very few people I've actually told. And he said, well, I thought you were Muslim. And he said, I saw you kind of react badly that I went to put my hand out to shake you. He said, that annoyed me because you'd created the situation. You'd worn a hijab, and then you'd be negative about the fact that I didn't want to kiss you and I went to shake your hand. And I was like, no, wasn't it at all. I completely forgot I had it on. I just wondered why on earth you weren't kissing me. You were shaking my hand. Because you don't see yourself, do you? You forget what you look like all day. Unless you look in the mirror, you kind of go, oh yeah, I forgot I had that on. Oh yeah, that big spot, I forgot about that. So I forget.
Yeah, but how interesting that something that is so such an inflammatory object in many cultures and many countries where it's not allowed. In France, you're not allowed to wear them in schools.
Ridiculous.
So So that it has become something that you don't even think about. So, how have your kids? We know that your husband has had some struggles around how it may affect income and therefore family stability, etc.
Yeah.
How about your kids?
Okay. So when we went to Edgware Road and I started showing my eldest, I was just with my eldest and started showing my eldest, like pointing out what they were wearing. So, you look at that. Because I was really trying to make him see that lots of people are different because they don't really see anybody different in Dorset. And he saw a lady she had the niqab on, where you just have your eyes revealed and everything else was black, right down to the floor and her arms. And he said, "Be careful, she's a bad person, Mummy." And I said, "Oh my, how have I raised a child that's already got all of these prejudices?" And he said, "Yeah, she's bad because she was like a ninja." So then I kind of had to do the whole, there's no such thing as bad people. And people are people, they just do good things and they do bad things. Actually, most people are everything. But I can kind of see from his perspective, actually, that was the closest thing from his experience that, it looked like. So I was like, okay, well, fair enough. But then had it not all been black, I don't know whether he would have thought that. But anyway, so I dropped him off at Lego school, like looking in my usual my UK clothes. And then when I picked him up, I was like, boom, I'd gone straight into the whole abaya, black niqab, black everything. And the woman on the door, like, completely still let him come home with me, even though, because I just said the same name. Yeah, I just said the same name. She's like, okay, fine. I'm not going to ask.
Oh, wow. And
Toby just started going and said, "Why are you wearing that, Mummy?" And I just said, "Oh, I just try on something different. It's fun." And that was it. And they don't say, my middle one asked me, "Why are you wearing that?" And I said the same thing, just try on. It's just something else to wear. It's just fun. And that's it. Because they're too little. They don't care. But they don't have all the connotations that we have of it represents oppression and it's against our values and blah, blah. Because actually it doesn't represent any of that. It's just modesty. The same way as I wouldn't walk out with my cleavage showing, my belly button showing, because I personally don't want to dress like that. I did when I was younger, but I feel like I should be more modest now as a mum. That's a different whole identity conversation, isn't it? It's exactly the same. It's just the needle sits in a different place in the terms of modesty on the barometer.
So do you think that you've said that you think you might keep wearing it, but probably not the niqab, so you would keep wearing the hijab after the experiment is over?
I think I'll keep wearing it, yeah, but I won't wear it. I don't really like it under my chin and down because that does get a bit stuffy at the front of my chin, like, and my neck gets a bit stuffy. But I like wearing it on my hair. I like accessorizing. I've always liked hats. It's just another accessory for me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, scarves were something that you would wear. You look at pictures of women in the 50s and they would wear scarves and they would go in their, the convertible car in the US, driving down Route 66 with their little handkerchiefs on. And
yeah, I love that look. And they did in the UK, you had that kind of, the scarves were like from the front of your head down to the back and then just tied a little thing under your chin. Yes. That covered most of your hair.
Yeah, totally. And when they would go driving, the men would wear the gloves and the women would wear the little, I think it's fabulously glamorous.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I love it.
So you're going to keep going with this experiment until the end of September.
To be fair, I'm not enjoying it anymore. But but I don't want to be a fair weather Muslim because it's highly polarizing. The people who are against me, and the people who are for me are for me. I'm stopped in the street one way or, well, not one way either, that's not true. I'm stopped in the street for people that really support me. But those much closer to me don't really understand why I'm doing it, don't you? And the comment yesterday I had from my friend who went to shake my hand, he said, well, it's not rocket science. You did know you were going to get prejudice. Why are you doing it? And actually, I'm learning things that I didn't learn. I'm hoping through the process that I'm humanizing. But there's other people who said, you're one person. You're not going to change anything. Why are you doing this yourself and your family? You're not going to change anything. But actually, it does take just one person. And it might just mean that somebody who's seen me or me, myself, when I see someone wearing a hijab, just, as a chat and just treats them like a normal person rather than, because I have had some people when I wear this who make a purpose of saying, we are welcoming. And they give me like a proper smile, like it's okay. And I just think, I don't need that. That's weird as well,
But then as this was a question that you had asked a couple of days ago, as non-Muslim people, how do you, I can't remember what your question was exactly, but one of our mutual acquaintances had said, I feel like as a white person, I can't have opinions.
Yeah,
I can't feel like I can have any opinions about people from other cultures or any other minorities, because even just the fact that I'm even thinking about it makes me a racist, wherever your thinking is on the spectrum. And she was like, as a white person, it's how do we even get into the dialogue? How do we even have a conversation without it immediately becoming incendiary, because you're immediately presumed on some level to be prejudiced. On the other hand, there is an inherent, the privilege that is being talked about, certainly in the US, like the inherent privilege that you have of just being born white, like all of the stuff that happens easily for people who look like me, just because that's the color we came out at. Like, and it's privilege that we don't even realize, because it's so inherent. That it just doesn't, the experience is so fundamentally and consistently different of being in a place. So,
I think, I haven't had a lot of negative input, and what I did do was a post saying, if anybody's heard anybody say or seen in the media views, because I don't think people want to share their own views. And I think for our mutual contact, I don't know whether that's her view. I think it's just a sharing of these are views that people have. Because I think people don't really want to talk about it, because it seems that saying you're a racist is almost akin to saying you're a paedophile. It's like completely socially unacceptable. And I think unless we allow people to have their opinions and really understand, there's a couple of documentaries on Netflix which really talk to it was in America. I think she was UK born and bred, but she was from Afghanistan or somewhere. And I can't remember now. And he and a few people that she interviewed were like White National Front in America. They're the same. There's loads of this. I'm not just speaking on America. And really had the conversation directly with them. And it was really interesting, actually. Actually, it came from an idea of we're just scared of being taken over. So I don't know, there's more work to do on that. There's a few questions like, why can't we have Christmas? They want to bring their laws over here. We dress like them when we're in their country, but they don't dress like us when we're in our country. So there's a few points that I want to, and I don't know the answer. I'm just a girl wearing a scarf. But I do feel like it's become I owe, as the topic's being brought out, that if it's going that way, then I feel the duty to try to answer those questions. And that's just, for me, it's going to be research. I'm going to have to research it, and I don't know what I'm going to find out, or I think I'm going to have an answer. But I think language is a big thing. We need to be able to understand how to talk, what words to use, because you use the wrong word and instantly it's like, and I don't know if I'm using the right words. No, I don't know. I haven't had anybody who's Muslim or wears a hijab see or talk to me about this, so I could be offending left, right and centre. I don't know. All I know is that my intentions are good. But,
I think, I mean, not being someone who wears a hijab and not being Muslim, but I certainly the perspective, my personal perspective on it has been admiration for your curiosity and for your living your curiosity, because it is uncomfortable and we flee discomfort. And it's something I often speak of. And in the podcast that we issued on Friday, episode 26 with an associate, I had mentioned that my parenting coach will say to me, we set up our entire lives from childhood to avoid feeling uncomfortable. We just don't want to feel uncomfortable because it's dangerous. Like feeling abandoned and feeling otherized and feeling not good enough is uncomfortable. And so we set ourselves up to not have to feel that way. And you are not setting yourself up to avoid discomfort. You have set yourself up to be plunged into a vat of hot discomfort, and you're still in it 2 weeks later. So I wanted to witness that you continue to live through this experiment, and then and say that you don't know where the chips will fall, and you don't know what the change is or may not be in your life, that you don't know. You're just curious and trying and seeing what happens. And I admire you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. That's appreciated.
Well, it's sincere. So I always close the podcast with a question. That is always the same. And that is, as the podcast is called MamaFuel, I always ask every woman who comes on where you get your MamaFuel.
Oh, I like that. love for your children. Love for your children's the thing, isn't it? Because you can't give up. Well, you can, but your love doesn't let you.
But where do you get the fuel for you?
Because I think if you have to have your own identity, because if you don't, your kids are going to feel a massive responsibility for you if you don't have your own life. And also they're just going to think that they can't have their own lives themselves, that they've got to be constantly serving somebody else. And so, I say that.
The answer is never what I expect. It's always so exciting to hear what every mama has to say to me. Sharlene, thank you. Thank you for sharing your time today. I know it's precious nap time at your house. Thank you for showing up.
It's been a pleasure.
In your honesty and your beauty and sharing your curiosity with us. I wish you all the best on the rest of this experiment and all the other ones that I suspect you'll be going on in the rest of your life.
I am. If you want to suggest any, then suggest some.
I will.
Because I'm open.
Well, let's keep the conversation going. And if anybody wants to follow the experiment, where can they find you?
Yeah, so if you just look up, I think you have to look at Sharlene Lopez. And I've got a hijab on in my profile on Facebook, and you'll see it's shared publicly on there. And that's Sharlene with an S.
Yes, Sharlene, and then L, and then Lopez, Lopez. Yeah. I will link to that in any case in the show notes. So if you're curious, and I would love to know for everyone who's listening, what has been your biggest takeaway from this conversation? I would love for you to come into our Facebook group, and you can come to thecenteredmamaproject.com/Facebook and talk to Sharlene and I. I'm going to invite Sharlene in there, and maybe I'm totally putting you on the spot, but maybe you'll come in and answer questions if we've got any.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Any questions in the group. So thank you for this conversation. Thank you for listening wherever you are. I so value that you have us in your earbuds, and I would love it if you would hop onto your phone in iTunes and leave me a review, because every single review that I get helps get this podcast into more mamas' ears. And these conversations really matter. I know in my heart that they matter, and I know from feedback I've been getting from listeners around the world. So do every mama in the world a favor, and in thanks from me as well, and go ahead and leave a review. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week. Bye.
That's it for today's episode of MamaFuel, the podcast. Thanks for listening. There's a lot more conversation, sharing, and real mama talk happening in our private Facebook group. To join us, go to www.thecenteredmamaproject.com/Facebook and make sure you say hi when you get there. If you like this episode, or if you know a mama who could use a little mama fuel, I'd love you to share this episode and to rate and leave a review. Every comment helps, and it is always a delight to hear from you. Thanks, and bye for now.